my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
They're here.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
It's showtime.
Right, welcome everybody to another episode of the VHS Strikes Back. I am one of your hosts, Chris, and my co-host and very good friend is Dave.
Hey there, Chris, and hello to all listeners out there. Welcome to the VHS Strikes Back, the show where we dust off the old video player and go on a nostalgic journey to look at the good and the bad movies of yesteryear. Now, Chris, what are we going to review this week?
Well, Dave, it is my pick, the first one of 2026. It's pleasure and pain because by watching this movie, I put myself in a lot of pain in a lot of gymnasiums over the years, Dave, and not got a lot to show for it, but there you go. But we are going back to 1977, one of my favourite movies of all time, and it's pointless even asking me a score, Dave, but you can ask me at the end. This stars Serge Nubret, Ken Waller, Ed Corney, Franco Columbo, the legend, Mike Katz, Lou Ferrigno, but more importantly, Dave, Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger. This one is pumping iron. Now, Dave, I know you've watched it over the last week or so, but have you watched this before in the past?
So I have done, and I honestly, I can't pinpoint a time when I watched it because it would have been, I was probably already maybe in my 30s or something like that. It wasn't something that I rented out on VHS, to be honest. So I would have got it on some kind of streaming service, maybe, I don't know, Netflix or something like that. But I mean, for me, Arnie's just always been there. You know, I think when I told you our sword and sorcery love, or I say our sword and sorcery love, I really mean me.
Yeah, rephrase that.
Yeah. But, you know, and it's strange, right? Because I'd watched Conan when I was so young, I didn't have any concept that, like, he wasn't really a normal bloke. Or he just wasn't a normal barbarian that you would get there, because I don't know if you remember, but I mean, he was a slave and he was basically pushing around this fucking circular mill type thing, and you know, for 20 years or something, and then he just ended up like Arnold with you know, these slaves were getting good protein, I guess, back in the day. But anyway, I just took that for granted that was a thing. But then I tried to watch pretty much everything that Arnie did. I even watched I think it was Hercules in New York, which was even before this one, which was pretty terrible. I did have that one on video. And then so whenever I watched it, and I can't say I loved it, because I watched it, and you know, I mean, obviously we do our reality TV cast as well, but you know, that really started because of your absolute unbound love of reality TV, and I was like, this is all fucking shit. That was the basic premise of starting that off, and then ended up warming to it pretty quickly, actually. But so the idea of like that reality TV kind of documentary, quote unquote, film wasn't something that I necessarily loved. And I can see why this kind of propelled him to stardom. But I think a little bit like Ferris Bueller, where, you know, we watched it in the 80s and we're like, oh, Ferris Bueller, what a guy. And we watch it, you know, in the, you know, this millennium, and we go, what a fucking dick. Yeah. You know, and I remember when I watched it, I was thinking, Arnold, you're a bit of a twat. You got this fucking disabled bodybuilder and you're just fucking sledging him. Not as bad as Mike Katz got sledged, but I just remember thinking, man, there are some absolute dicks there. And this was before, because on the other podcast, we've watched so much reality TV. I can now see the strings behind the camera that are pulling things, you know, the producer manipulation and stuff. Whereas, you know, I remember watching this one for the first time, and I'm just buying it all as 100% reality. And, you know, so when Arnie's saying about, you know, he had a competition coming up, so he didn't go to his dad's funeral, and you know, the whole thing about how the pump is better than making love to a woman, he wants to have a word with Swiss Tony on that, by the way. But yeah, and I just remember thinking, Arnie, you're a bit of a fucking dick, to be honest. Now, I think if I'd have watched it earlier, I'd have thought, oh, fucking this guy, he's a bit of a chancer, a bit of a joker, and warmed to him more. But yeah, I think the first time I was thinking, oh, he's an absolute prick. But then watching it again, you're like, I can see what's going on here. There's the over-the-top, exaggerated versions of themselves, the producers manipulating certain scenes to create a bit of drama or whatever. So yeah, I think I haven't watched it anywhere near as much as you, but I'd say probably I've watched it a couple of times before watching it this time again. I mean, I'm curious now, Chris. How about yourself?
Well, it's interesting, because I've got a story and I've been contemplating whether to share it or not. 'Cause it's a personal family thing. My cousin is older than me and he's like my hero when it came to as growing up. So I didn't have an older brother. So he was like, got me into Arnie. And I remember being in Old Trafford at my nan's and my cousin was about 14, 15, 16 and something like that. And he had these videos and they weren't like, Buttman Does Brazil Day, which came later on from a cousin, but that's another story. He had and he went, we need to watch these videos. And he made us one fucking shitty, drab afternoon in Old Trafford, watch Raw Deal, Terminator, and then I watched Pumping Iron. And he had a copy of Pumping Iron.
Trilogy, that
yeah, but at the time, I thought it was hell because I was like, I love the action stuff, but I didn't understand Pumping Iron. So as like 11 years old, because he's about 4 years older than me, he's about 15, 16, I just didn't get the bodybuilding side of it. However, looking back now as a 47-year-old man and as someone who understands the dynamic of a family, and this is quite a personal story, so I know we share, and I do overshare things, and it's not really my story, but it was part of my family's. His dad basically decided he wanted to leave the family. This is late 80s, right? So very unusual to do this, but he basically wanted to change genders, Dave, right? I'm going to share this, so I think it's out in the family now. It's not something that, we have these secrets and everything in families. And my cousin, it was his dad, was like, what the fuck's going on? They were told in the late 80s, like now you embrace within the family, these various different genders and things like that, they have to leave the family. So it was decided he had to leave the family. So my cousin is like, what the fuck's going on? Then goes on to his inner monologue. I can look back. He was always involved in fights around this time and everything. But to prove his masculinity, he got into bodybuilding. And got into Arnie, and all these action heroes become like the norm then. From him loving stuff like Blade Runner, which he always just try to make me watch, and I fucking hate it. I've mentioned it before. It was always then action films like Arnie, Rocky, stuff like that. And I get it. And then he got into bodybuilding, which is obviously a psychological thing. I can see that. And we talk about it openly now within the family. And, my uncle, he's now back within the family, a different person. As everyone's sort of guessing what I'm talking about, it was just a weird time in the 80s because it wasn't some of that gender, changing and everything was thinking. And it's something that made us as a family. It isn't my story as such, but it's sort of like something. How I got into Arnie, how I met Arnie was because of this tragedy within the family, which now is wrong. It was 80s. Let's just hide and never talk about this person again. Yeah. But Arnie it sounds silly, but Arnie was a focal point of all the grandkids, especially my cousin, and he went down this whole thing of trying to be dead big masculine. He bodybuilded, he literally competed. He was everything about that was Arnie. So our whole childhood from being about 11 was Arnie quotes, Arnie films. Now, Pumping Iron, I didn't really understand. I like you, I thought he was a dick, but I always had to watch Arnie films with my cousin, and me and my cousin become really close, worked with him, he was my best man and all that at the wedding. And I went to the gym with him. At 15 years old, I went in a proper gym in Sale in Manchester, Raglan Row, Walton Park. It's still there, called Cosmo. And you had to be invited to be a member, Dave. There was some of the biggest fucking gearheads you've ever seen. Now, me being naive, didn't think that you needed to take gear and take your vitamins and say your prayers to get that big, but you physically cannot get that big without taking gear. You can't. When Arnie and that were taking gear, and they admit this, hence why a lot of them have heart problems, it was legal. So when Pumping Iron was on, it was legal to take steroids. They talk about it a lot, but they didn't put it in this documentary. So I've watched this documentary probably, I'm not lying, it must be nearly 100 times. I love it. And when I need to get my arse in gear, I watch Pumping Iron and another movie that's on YouTube called I Want to Look Like That Guy, which I love from 2009. But Arnie, Pumping Iron, now I have so much appreciation of it. But as a family, Arnie has a massive impact on our whole family because he's got a massive family, Catholic family and all that. And it's only now when we've got older that we can talk about this. And I've sat here thinking, do I say it, you know, I'm overshare stuff at time, but I think it's quite relevant in the world we live in that even in the late 80s, things like this were in the world. And this is serious for Chris. You know, I'm not talking about, you know, it's not like we all went, I'm not even going to say it. I was going to fucking throw a joke in, Dave. I'm not. Anyway, right, I'm not throwing a joke in about this. It's a serious thing. But it's something slightly different. How I came across Arnie was because of a tragedy within my family. And it's not a tragedy, but at the time it was because we didn't understand it. And the world we're living in now, it's just like we embraced better, dealt with it better. But it put me on the road to get into bodybuilding, training with my cousin, getting into like going into these massive gyms. I've never taken steroids at all. I haven't. And I was naive for a long time. I was anti-steroid for years about not taking it. And my cousin, fucking phenomenal. Dave, legs like tree trunks when we used to go to the gym. And you had all these professional bodybuilders, amateur bodybuilders we used to train with. And I've never looked like that. You know me. I've always fluctuated with my weight. I'm a big frame, 6'2", big frame, and they always say you should do bodybuilding. But someone like your size, Dave, and I'm not being thinking you would be a perfect bodybuilder. Bodybuilders, really. Arnie was 6'4".
Like Franco Columbo, and
Franco Columbo, 5'4", 5'5". Dorian Yates, one of the greatest bodybuilders ever, is about 5'10". Ronnie Coleman, 5'10". Absolute mass monsters. But Arnie is the pinnacle for me of trying to keep fit. And he's the person, and everyone says he bodybuilders, some like him, some don't, but they all appreciate that he's the foundation of bodybuilding. He wasn't the first, but he's the one that put it on the map. And I love this movie for the fact that even at nearly 80, Arnie still trains. I follow him, whatever views people have on him. As a person who deals with, and I've had so many, you know, I talk about these, my body issues and everybody dysmorphia, we all have it. We all have insecurities. Mine is bodybuilding. And just recently we were talking before the podcast. I put a little bit of weight back on. I put about half a stone back on, which doesn't seem a lot, but for me, it takes me under completely. And I've just lost 3 pounds this week because I'm proper on a proper diet now, like get my arse in gear. And I'm nowhere near where I've been in the past. But the first thing I did, Dave, was put Pumping Iron on. And then said, that's why I said, let's pick Pumping Iron, because I wanted to watch it. And yeah, it just, for some reason, this movie grounds me on a human level. It's ridiculous. And you're right. When I first watched it, I was like, Arnie's a complete arrogant arsehole. But then and you're right, what you were saying, it sounded like we were talking about on our reality podcast about producer manipulation and bullshit. Because when you actually watch it, and you understand, and I've watched so many things on it. And there is a documentary, which I know you've watched, and we talked about in Discord, called Raw Iron. It's on YouTube. It's the making of, and it's from 2002. Arnie's in it, Stallone's in it, The Rock. And it's about how it was made, because originally it was made for Arnie training basically a 5-stone weakling and a comedian and about bodybuilding. And eventually they were
MASH
like,
or something.
Yeah, it was in MASH. There's loads of footage. It's in Raw Iron. There's loads of footage as well about it. And then when they saw Arnie and they were like, this guy's got so much charisma, fuck it, we're just going with Arnie. And that's what they did. So like what anyone thinks of Arnie, for me personally, Arnold Schwarzenegger will always have a massive place in my heart for my family and what he did for various members of my family, which sounds so ridiculous to some people, like fucking ridiculous, you'll never meet him or anything. But he had a grounding thing. So like if my cousin was down or anything, we'd put Pumping Iron on, or we'd put Terminator on, or we'd put Raw Iron on, or Running Man. That's why I love these movies, because I was made to watch him, and I thought it was like detention. I had to watch him because he was like my hero. My cousin was like, oh fucking. But I can look back now and go, that was his way of coping with this massive traumatic upbringing that he had. So yeah, so I know for a podcast and what we normally do, Dave, but I just felt this is something that I wanted to share, and it's not something that I'm speaking out of turn. I know my cousin had given me his permission to speak about it, but yeah, Arnie is an absolute hero for me and my cousin more than anything, because of this. It got him into this bodybuilding and dealing with like some proper like mental health struggles years ago in the late 80s. So anyway, I know I've overshared there, but I just felt it was relevant for the podcast.
No, thanks for sharing that. I mean, I guess the real or for me, the way I interpret it is the real tragic bit is someone's made a decision for themselves, and it's kind of split the family, and like everything's reconciled now, but all those years will never be got back, and ultimately it's still family, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. And leaving your kids, 2 kids that he had, is a lot to do. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of selfish stuff was said and all that. But just watching these Arnie movies was almost like when you see the kids now who are, you know, I know I'm neurodiverse. We talk about we all talk about, but you see the kids who they have to wear like the earphones to block out the noise because they just can't cope socially. And I think that's a wonderful thing. Having a daughter who's on the spectrum, Jordan, you know, I've talked about before, I get it. And I think sometimes maybe she would have needed the earphones, but he's dealing with noise and everything. And I think maybe for him, putting these movies on just blocked out all the noise that was going on around how his life was going to go, you know. So, I love Arnie for a lot of things, Dave, and he probably will never know this, but he had a massive impact on our family, which I've never shared with anyone, especially on this podcast. I've shared it with you, but never on the podcast.
And I think he probably has influenced an unbelievable amount of people through, you know, his movies. I saw an interview actually with him. Again, my fucking algorithm is drowned this week, so all kinds of Arnie stuff.
Stuff, Dave.
Yeah, so fucking let's not go there. But and I saw an interview, like a very recent interview, and I didn't see the question, but the question was obviously something like, are you not a bit, you know, gutted at your body now? You know, you fucking 80 or whatever it is. Because they cut out the question, but it was just him answering it. And he was basically saying, yeah, you know, I kind of look at myself now and I think back to how I looked, but I think back to how I looked and how great was that kind of thing. So he always has this kind of way of reframing things in a quite positive way, you know, sometimes quite brutally positive, depending on what subject he's on. But yeah, it is interesting. It's also interesting, like you went down more of that weightlifting route, and I went to the gym when I was younger, but I guess I was always more of a runner. And then it was only probably, actually, now I think about it, like the 2010s when I was getting a bit older. And then I started to learn more about how resistance training actually, you know, it sets you better up for kind of late middle age and later life and stuff. So I'd gone years, I'd not done any real weight training or anything through my 20s. But one of the things I think about when I watch this is your proper old gyms. Like I go to a gym now, there's fucking mirrors everywhere, but all the weights and everything are kind of uniform. They're all, you know, very fancy looking and everything. There's all nice, kind of bouncy flooring, you know, it's not carpet or anything. And I think I'll name drop a couple now. So I actually had, probably if I'd have gone mentally a different way, I could have gone down that route had I been drawn to it, because my uncle who used to do a bit of amateur boxing, and I say a bit, like he was quite serious about it, so did it a lot. And he used to train me. Do you remember a name John Lyon from the 1990 Olympics? Amateur boxer, a bit of a local legend in St. Helens, and so he had a home gym. Like, but those things didn't really exist that much, you know. Certainly not on a estate in St. Helens, and so he used to let my uncle like use the gym. And so I think probably when I was, I don't know, 15 or something like that, and probably about 8 stone wet or something, like ridiculously skinny, I'd obviously mentioned something to probably my parents about like not being happy about, you know, being so skinny and whatever. So he dragged me to the gym, and he used to train with KB, right, who's the older brother of Nick McCabe from The Verve.
Ah, yeah.
So, yeah, I think I might have mentioned it to you before, but so yeah, just this weird. When we were talking there about back in the time, and I was thinking, fucking hell, there's a couple of like semi-famous names there. But yeah, I tell you what, Chris, I remember trying to do the Smith machine with no weights on at all. And they were trying to get me to do bench press. I couldn't even do the fucking bar. And it's funny to think back now, but I guess, I just didn't really, I think I stuck it out for a few months, but the fire never really caught for me. I never really thought, oh yeah, I need to, keep this up. And I guess the other thing was, I mean, and I've spoken to my uncle about this in years since, like, even he says, like, he wishes he knew more about nutrition back then.
Yeah.
Because the education on it was almost zero. He said, he'd be getting ready for a fight, he'd be hungry, he'd have a packet of biscuits. Or my nan was always good at making like trifles. He'd just demolish a whole fucking massive trifle. Like, if he'd have eaten differently, I think he'd have done a lot better. And so yeah, I think back to that time, and I think, well, actually, if I'd have eaten differently and I'd have maybe saw some early results, maybe the fire would have caught. Because when you're on one and you do see the results, it's infectious, isn't it? You kind of, and then you chase better results and whatever. Not to like bodybuilding standards. And like you say, it's only in fairly recent years it's been obvious to me the guys who are massive don't get there naturally. And it's this weird open secret, isn't it? But I guess if you're in the game, you're kind of, everyone's aware of it. But if you're outside and it's not really part of your life, you don't really think about it that much. So yeah, it was only over lockdown, I had a personal trainer because all the fucking gyms were closed and everything, and I just wanted to do something. And he was a sort of former natural bodybuilder, but he was telling me all the different tricks and everything, and so I was like, fucking hell, my mind was blown. But yeah, I must admit, watching this, and we'll get into the movie, but it's sort of re-energized me a little bit, because especially, it's post-Christmas, isn't it? It got a bit sloppy, got out of the habit of going to the gym and stuff. So yeah, this has been a good timing. This has been good timing wise.
Yeah, it is my earth rod, Dave. My earth rod. Now, before we get into the trailer, we have some news, Dave, don't we? Our Discord, Stitch Up of the Year competition.
Yeah,
tournament.
So it's funny. So again, just reminiscing back to January of last year. So January 2025, we kind of kicked it off with this Year of the Stitch Up, which was a bit of a kind of whimsical reaction to you picking Santa with muscles. That's like, right, I'm going to stitch you up all fucking year. And everyone kind of jumped on board, and by God, we watched some crap over the years, but also some absolutely fantastic movies that we've probably never watched. And things like Empire, never going to watch again. So I think it's been absolutely fantastic. And then some of the patrons were kind of bouncing around the idea of having some kind of thing, to kind of look back at the Year of the Stitch Up. And so just after Christmas, I kind of put together this tournament. So it was like a 64 team tournament, if you like. And we had, I think when we added in all of the late fees, and so if you want to pick late fees, it's a Top Gun level, and so we threw in some of the movies post 2005. And anyway, so we had a couple of buys in there, and basically over the last month we've been going through, and it's been a head to head, one movie against another, and then the Patreons have been voting on which one. And I left the kind of criteria. It wasn't just about the Stitch Up. It was like, look, it's this movie against that movie. Vote however you want. It is the Year of the Stitch Up, but just I don't want to be draconian about how you vote. And so anyway, it's been going on, and we've gone through all the different rounds, and we are now down, Chris, to the final. So we are down to the final two movies, and they are, so Jack's Champagne and Bullets, which I always want to call cigarettes and bullets. It's a mental block I've got, but Champagne and Bullets, of course, and also Math's Naked Lunch. They are the final two movies. So because it's down to the final two, we haven't yet put out the vote. So there's a polling system that the Patreons do. We haven't yet put out the vote for it. So I thought, well, we'll record and we'll give each of them an opportunity to basically make their pitch. And then for whoever's the Patreon, when I put out the poll, they can basically vote out for the winner of the Year of the Stitch-Up 2025. So I think, Chris, what we'll do is we'll start off with Jack, and this is his pitch for Champagne and Bullets.
The film's so nice, they named it thrice. You know, in some ways I feel a bit like a fraud, my pick progressing to the final, in light of the fact that this was meant to be the Year of the Stitch-Up. For there was no trickery intended, no guilt, no pain, only pleasure, only gain. The naked truth is, the movie Math Mind should shoot mine down blind. But, you know what they say, lunch is for wimps. So, with the shimmy slide, some shuriken chops, a Shakespearean soliloquy, and the filthiest spar you'd ever hope to see, perhaps you'd agree with me, this rightly deserves to rise to the top. Now raise your flute and check that ballot for the one and only Champagne and Bullets. And Math, my message to you, should you lose, the road to revenge is long, but if you want to get even, you've got to get past Taekwondo black belt John DeHart first. No problem.
What a legend.
There's a lot of thought gone into that, isn't there? There's loads of different things in there. I will just to give Jack a quick plug as well. So I'm recording with Jack next week. We're going to do, he's doing back to the filmography. So had previously covered all the Statham movies. He's now on to Matthew McConaughey, and Chris is arrived at that time when he's going to cover Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, what a film. What a film that is.
I love it. So I need to rewatch it this weekend, and we'll be chatting next week about it.
It's a great
Probably won't watch that one with the kids, if I'm honest.
Margot Robbie is unreal.
I do recall the opening scene to that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what a brilliant initial pitch. And here we go with Math for Naked Lunch.
Okay, let's go. Right now, it's time to lay it out straight. This flick called Naked Lunch, man, it's way out of shape. Plot all twisted up like a knot you can't untie. Scenes so confusing make your brain want to cry. They try to bring Bo's life to the big screen, but they missed the mark so bad it's like they'd never seen. What made the book hit so hard and the edges all bite? Instead, we get a mess that's just not worth the fight. So when they ask what's worse, you know what to say. Cast your vote for Naked Lunch as the film went astray. In the Year of the Stitch-Up with Chris and with Dave, I cry out to the patrons, which path shall we pave? I raise up my champagne and let my bullets fly clear as we make Naked Lunch the Stitch-Up of the year.
Wow, the Yorkshire Muhammad Ali there. So I intentionally, I didn't listen to these beforehand. I wanted you and I to listen to them both at the same time. But what a rhyme.
Very good, very good. He's upped his game there, Dave.
Yes, isn't he? So
it's going to go with that one. I mean, maybe we should have had a bit of a medley. You know, it's too late now. Well, the pitches are there, Dave. And I will say, I still think it's a con because Look Who's Talking should have won anyway. Look Who's Talking Now. But that's just a completely different conversation. That was the film of the year and the fantastic Christmas song that I pulled out the bag. But no, honestly, I'm looking forward to Champagne and Bullets. What a film.
I mean, I don't want to sway it, but I think, you know, if I think of the essence of Year of the Stitch-Up, I'm not going to vote, obviously, but I know where my vote would go.
Oh, yeah.
Because there is one great film in there, and there is one film that I will never be watching again. But anyway, Chris, should we get into our trailer? In a world where muscles are currency and the mirrors are the real judges,
Welcome to Pumping Iron, the documentary that proves building is just professional wrestling without the jazz.
No, I was thinking about the going
An
Arnie,
Arnie,
but I thought-
an
I
Arnie.
knew you.
Yeah. You're better than me, Arnie, but yeah, go on.
Follow a group of men preparing for the ultimate test, the Mr. Olympia competition.
Or as it's known, the Battle of the Egos.
Starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, a man so confident he treats psychology like a contact sport.
Yeah, Arnold doesn't just lift weights, he lifts other men's self-esteem and snaps it clean in half.
Watch as rivals train, pose, flex, and glare at each other in silence.
While secretly panicking about calves.
It's dedication, it's discipline, it's men shaving their bodies and oiling each other without a hint of irony.
Honestly, Dave, this film single-handedly redefined masculinity and confused everyone at the same time.
Witness mind games so intense they'd be illegal in most sports.
There's more psychological warfare in a hotel gym than in a Cold War thriller.
Is it a sports documentary, or is it a character study?
Or is it just 90 minutes of men asking, are my arms big enough?
Pumping Iron, a film about strength
And fragility.
and the incredible power in believing in your own hype.
If confidence were protein powder, this sounds very like I might get cancelled, Dave. This has gone from Arnold to another accent. Arnold would be illegal.
Flex harder, pose longer.
Never skip leg day. Get to the chopper, and it's better than coming. Hasta la vista, baby.
In 1975, bodybuilders are preparing for the upcoming Mr. Universe amateur competition and Mr. Olympia professional competition in Pretoria, South Africa. We follow the life of Mike Katz, a hopeful for the title of Mr. Universe. Katz was bullied in his youth for being Jewish and wearing glasses, which spurred him on to become a pro football player, when his career with the New York Jets ended with a leg injury. We then get to follow Arnold Schwarzenegger and his rivalry with Lou Ferrigno, professional bodybuilders competing for the title of Mr. Olympia. Now, Chris, what do you reckon to the opening of this movie?
Well, Dave, I'm just going to say it. I love men oiled up bodybuilding. I've got to say, Dave, what a film. What a film. So the Mike Katz, this film's very strange in it because they call it a docudrama, and a lot of the stuff that goes on isn't true. I know the Mike Katz stuff is because I've read about it, and he's talking about him being a Jewish kid and all the stuff, the problems he had, and he was like a football player. But he's massive. He's a fucking unit. Like he's bigger than Arnie. When Arnie comes to see him in the gym at the start, like he's massive, but he's not professional, and he's very humble the way he speaks about his kids, and they're getting him to ding it. And then they try and make Ken Waller. Ken Waller's the guy who actually runs Gold Gym in real life at this point. And he's like, he nicks his t-shirt, and I'm like, fuck me, they were really clutching at straws here, weren't they? And Mike's like, you can see Mike really just wants to chin Ken, doesn't he? And he's like, yeah, you're a dickhead, but he's trying to be dead nice, and he probably is just in his nature. But he's sad. I love the music. The music's so 70s. He's like that real, he's downtrodden and all this. And like Mike Katz is still with us, I think. Even and he does talk about it a lot. Yeah, he's I think he became a politician at one point there. But yeah, he's a businessman. It's just a great setting for it. And then you've still got the little callbacks to Arnie, just sort of as Louis says, in this, Louis in the shadows, as his dad says, and all this. But yeah, it centers on the amateur side to start with little sprinkles of Arnie coming back into the gym and signing up to Gold's Gym. I love it. I just fucking love it. There's some monsters in this, so absolutely units who are not even bodybuilders. That gym was pure testosterone, Dave, and probably a load of bad farts as well because of the protein. But there you go.
Yeah. Like I say, I just love the going back. Obviously you and I were around at this time, but going back to those proper old school gyms, the proper weight plates that looked like they'd been around for 100 years. They'd been taken from Greece and brought into this gym in America. And I think I watched, obviously, when we're watching to talk about, you watch it a bit more intently than if you're just watching it casually, don't you? So I guess what I hadn't picked up on before was, the contrast between the West Coast and the East Coast. And I looking a bit more into the background of how this was all set up. I mean, I think that was it 100 or 200 hours or something of film that they had, and then so what we got to see was just a fraction of the film that was taken. And like I say, with watching so much reality TV in recent years, it's clear to me that it's not just filming stuff that happens in real life and then shoving it together as a documentary. There's a real story that's being built up, and again, it's not a retrospective story. They're literally pulling the strings to try and make this happen. So I hadn't realized that the whole rivalry with Lou Ferrigno was it was a setup, and Lou Ferrigno's dad didn't really train him. That was all just bullshit for the story, to try and give this villain to Arnie's kind of, he's basically the champion. That's how they kind of put it all together. But I must admit, I mean, I did think, these guys, they must have spent like 5-6 hours in the gym every day, and it's really interesting to go back. And also, I wonder, have there been many movies that have had such an impact on just mainstream? It's like, say, I'll go to the gym a bit later, so usually we'll record in the morning, I'll put together, I'll edit, and then I'll go to the gym for an hour. There's probably going to be 60 or so people there, mixture of people who are doing resistance type training, people on the treadmills, rowing and cardio stuff and all sorts. But this whole industry, this whole idea of going to the gym is just such a normal thing now. But you go back to this time, it came out in 77, didn't it? But it was all filmed. It's all around the 1975 competitions. And it was this like weird little obscure niche subculture, really. And, you had pictures of bodybuilders in comics and stuff, but they were almost treated like freaks at a circus show. It's just weird to think back, and you think, well, this film probably had such an impact just on that overall fitness industry. And like the 80s was mad for it, wasn't it? And probably Olivia Newton-John had a big impact on that with Let's Get Physical and that whole video there. But it's just weird to think back about how niche, like, just training your body was at that time.
It's true, and even watching this, they're like circus acts, aren't they? You're watching Franco Columbo lift cars up, rip the yellow pages in half, all these like weird feats. Like Arnie going to a fucking prison and just posing in front of all these like fucking killers and various something they're having.
He's taking a chance there, isn't he? Oiled up with his shirt off.
Yeah, exactly. It's very. It's very of its time, but also they were known as circus. Even when I started training like the mid-90s, Dave, like I got into it and there was a couple of gyms, but sports centres didn't even, like Stretford Sports Centre, which is my local one, didn't even have a gym. They had didn't have any weights or fuck all. It was, I think the gym that is there now was actually because Jordan got christened. Jordan's christening was in the actual function room. It was a function room, it was a bar. Fucking Sports Centre had a bar, it didn't have a gym. It's only like, Jordan's born 2000. You're only looking at maybe in the last 25 years that proper sports centres got gyms. You might have the odd one with a couple of machines, but they were never like what they are now. They were like an afterthought, like, there's a couple of little weights in the corner or anything. Whereas now, they're the foundation of any sports centre gym. Everything's about health. It's a great thing because you see things now, don't you? Like, this is what 50 looked like in the 70s. Like, and I'm 47, you're 49. It's like we're getting close to 50. And you're thinking, fucking hell, they look like fucking they look like they, about 20 stone. They look like fucking darts players, didn't they? Fags, fucking hair was a mess, the complexion, they had no fucking teeth. It's just like they were a completely different person, a man he was saying the 70s or even the 80s when he was 50 to, like, we watched some of the family videos of Sam's mum and dad's 50th, and you're looking at all the friends for like a mum and dad going, in like the early 90s or mid 90s going, fucking hell, that's us now. Like, we don't look like that, do we? You know, so there is a difference, I think, in everyone's health and fitness, and whatever you think of Arnie, it snowballed, and then obviously social media, but we are more healthier. I mean, how many people do you see on Facebook now who all of a sudden are fucking orienteering, walking? I'm doing a double marathon this year as a charity thing that we're raising in August, which I will talk about in the next couple of months. But I've got to start training to do 2 days, 52-mile walk, Dave. We're doing like in Eastbourne, the South Downs. But like, you see so many people going on these massive orienteering walks, don't you? Or and I've got to say, Dave, talk about fitness, fucking bugbear to me. And them fucking bellends who think they're part of the Tour de France, fucking there in pillions, about 8 bikes together, like the fucking blocking. And I'm a cyclist who cycled for years.
Oh, the peloton.
Oh,
thing.
fuck off. I hate them. I fucking do my fucking nutting. And I know the laws changed, so they have to be 2x2. I get it because of safety. But the amount of these bellends wearing the full fucking gear, lycra gear, like they're fucking going the Tour de France. And there's no wrong with that. Fitness, full kit wankers, you do that. But we don't need 10 of you bellends all on the fucking road like you're in the Tour de France with going for the yellow jersey. Get in a fucking double file or a single file and just fucking go for it. I get why, but it does my fucking nutting, Dave. And that's someone who cycled for years to work and that, you know, I've done the roads. I know how dangerous they are. But yeah, anyway, that's another thing. That's just a completely different podcast that day, but they do my fucking nutting them.
So I'd never really had an opinion on it, to be honest.
I have, Dave. I have.
But yeah, and like you say, I do think it's definitely a thing, isn't it? And I think with the people not looking as old now at the same age, and I do think part of it is, you know, trying to live a healthier lifestyle, you know, going to the gym or whatever, or doing a bit of walking, but also just what you eat, you know, don't just, I mean, like I say, when I think back to the 80s, even me growing up, like just the education on nutrition was absolutely zero. But, you know, I was thinking, so I don't do it every day, but I do try and get out for a walk before I start work in the morning. So I'll go for about 3 or 4K, and then sets me up for the day, gets me mentally ready to start the day and whatever. And then I don't know what it was. I just obviously made the wrong choice in boxer shorts. And I think I actually pushed it a bit further as well. So it's, I don't know what, like maybe 5 or 6 or something. And just my thighs were rubbing together like on the last stretch. And I was thinking, oh, fucking hell, I hope Chris's training is going okay, because, you know, the wrong choice of clothing wear for this massive walk can really put you in a bad spot. And I was only doing a comparatively short distance. So how is your training for that going?
Well, I've done 1 8K walk, and then I do walk pretty much every day, but I've got to walk the ante. I bought some fucking boots, then some Adidas Trek boots. Oh my God, they're the most uncomfortable fucking things I've ever worn. It's supposed to be trainers, because you know I've got dodgy flat feet, and the ball thing on the side of my ankle.
Hold on. You got the opposite of flat feet. You have the highest arches that anyone's ever seen.
Well, if you did go on OnlyFans, high arch guy, Dave, I've not made any money, but I am on there, and that's not bullshit. I did create an OnlyFans because someone said I could make some money, but I can make a heart with my feet when I put them together. I should put that in the Discord. I can. My mate, when I go on holiday, I always send it to one of my mates because he always calls my feet claw feet. But I always send him a picture of me like as it with me feet around the sun, and he fucking hates it. He turns his stomach. Right? I send it him every time I go away. But yeah, I am actually on OnlyFans, Dave, but I've not made any money. So if anyone wants to help me do that, then I'm happy to retire and make some weird fucking, you know, videos of me like, you know, opening a can through my feet, Dave. And this has gone on.
I do hear people go to OnlyFans a lot, but I don't think they go to OnlyFans to look at your weird claw feet.
Don't worry, I've not done any videos or made any money. It was one like drinking Prosecco, and my mate went, you could make some money on that. You should go on there, you know. And then when I went on there, I'm like, yeah, I'm not female, and the feet, I don't think it'll work, Dave. But there is feet fetishists out there, so if anyone wants to pay for it, please contact me.
Oh dear me! But I mean, let's stick on Mike Katz and Ken Waller for a bit there. So I hadn't, again, I'd obviously seen this before, but it never really resonated with me that Ken Waller was the guy who owned Gold Gym. And again, he was sort of set up. So you see it in Raw Iron. So the making of, I can't remember which year they did that. But I mean, all of these things are legitimately on YouTube as well, aren't they? I mean, you can just go on there, watch them. And yeah, he was basically prompted to do the hide the t-shirt thing. And when they're playing a bit, just chucking the American football around, he's giving him a bit of shit and whatever. And he was saying, he'd go to competitions after the movie came out and he'd get booed, and apparently he's like really good mates with Mike Katz. But I mean, even now I watch, it's not so much when they're just giving him shit, but obviously what the documentary had done a good job of is showing Mike Katz as this family man, and he's playing around with his kids and stuff, and he just seems like a good guy. I mean, I wish he'd shave that fucking hair off. I mean, even now I saw a recent video, he's still there somehow, clinging on for dear life. But love it. He should just absolutely get rid of that. But it's the competition, and again, a masterful bit of the shooting, because obviously you've got the Mr. Universe competition going on, and Mike loses out. He's fourth, and the camera follows him. Now they hadn't set that up. They didn't know how the judges were going to vote or anything, but just following him through. And you've seen Ken Waller be an absolute see next Tuesday about him. He doesn't give a fuck about him, as far as the documentary is concerned and what we're watching. And it's just when he's down there and he's talking about wanting to get to his family, and speak to his family, and just because he's so far away from home, that seemed to be a genuine moment. But then when he hears like Ken's won, and he's, this bully basically, and he's like, oh, that's great. Oh, that's so good. He's obviously crushed, but then he's got this weird kind of fondness for his bully. It crushes me every time I watch that bit.
It does, and you're right. And because it's laid up for the film, they're good mates. They're all mates, all of them. Even Arnie and Louis, they train together and everything. With Franco, Columbo, but yeah, he's a dick in this. And Mike Katz is just like forever never going to win anything. He's not. They play him out to be like he hasn't got that like eye of the tiger mentality, has he, to go to the next level. He's got the body, and he says that thing, doesn't he, about whenever I go to bodybuilding competition, even if I don't win, people cheer more for me. And I'm like, I don't think they do, Mike, but you keep telling yourself that, you know what I mean? So yeah, and that's an interesting start to it, isn't it? Because if you didn't understand like Mr. Universe, Mr. Olympia, like it sort of explains it, but it doesn't, because when you see Mike Katz come up, they're fucking brilliant bodies, they look amazing, but they're all on different planes because it's a professional thing what Arnie's doing, and he made it really with Joe Vida, the whole Mr. Olympia. It's only over the last few years The Rock's got involved and they've tried to elevate it, but I couldn't tell you when it's on now other than when I see the odd post. It's not, there's just no stars in bodybuilding like there has been in the 80s, 90s, even the 2000s, like Jay Cutler and Ronnie Coleman. The Phil Heath's the one who's won it the most, actually. Arnie's won it 6 times. And Dorian Yates has won it 6 times. Dorian Yates is from Birmingham. He was amazing in the 90s. And then it's been Ronnie Coleman 7, and I think Phil Heath's won it 8, and he won them from like 2010 upwards, Philly, or something like that, 2013 upwards. But yeah, very different world now, I think, the bodybuilding side of it. I think the strongman's taken over, and even arm wrestling, which I do watch bits of now. It's weird how this moves. But like when you get to Arnie, and you bring him in properly, and Franco Columbo and him are best mates. Franco died a couple of years ago. These videos, even up to the last couple of years of Franco's life, where they used to cycle to Gold's Gym. They would be together. Franco's older than Arnie, about 6 years older, but they lived together. They were the best of friends.
Calls him a child in this, though,
yeah,
doesn't he?
Yeah. He's a child, Dave. Yeah, I will mess him up and all this. I fucking love all that. But they were great friends together, like training partners, everything. So like they shared life experiences. He always goes on about Franco. He celebrated Franco last year again, Arnie, and even Louis. Arnie used to help Lou Ferrigno. I mean, 6'5", Dave, a fucking freak of nature, far too big for bodybuilding, and he looks phenomenal. But even I can see watching it that Arnie and that Serge Nubret at the end, they've got miles better bodies than Lou Ferrigno. But all the stuff what's sad about Lou Ferrigno though, Dave, is his dad Matt. He says he's an ex-cop. He retired from the police. He starts training him with no idea because his dad lays it up. And yeah, I had a few. Does that New York? I had a few weights in the garage, and all this. I used to do a bit myself. He's a big guy, his dad. You can see he's about 6'4". He's bigger than Arnie. But they fell out after this. After this movie,
really?
He didn't speak. Yeah, didn't speak because the whole thing about Louis training in that little gym with all them little guys, and that was all fake. He trained at Gold's Gym. It was all for this show. So when he's doing that, it was his dad's thing going, Arnold, his dad pushed all this to make him look vulnerable. And Louis didn't like it because it made him look really weak and played on his disability, and all that stuff. So they just fell out. There was other things, but they genuinely didn't really speak after that, after this movie, which is pretty sad. But
I thought it was the producers who pushed the dad to get more involved.
Yeah, they did, but he leaned into the story about him, and some of the stuff telling him to say Arnold and all this when he was training. It was all Lou Ferrigno felt embarrassed when he watched it.
Yeah,
and like he was a bit of a laughing stock.
Yeah, I did see that he hated it initially, but again, I think it's maybe watching it with those 70s lenses. He was played off like the villain. And played for a bit of a chump. But like I say, even the first time when I watched it, I'm like, I've got more empathy for him. I'm like, I kind of want Lou Ferrigno to win. Arnold's a dick.
He's a dick. He's an arrogant dick in it.
Right. Yeah, and I think about the influence of the movie, and so 77 was when this came out, but that was when the pilot for The Incredible Hulk came out as well. So again, Ferrigno's kind of big break there, if you like. And I think back, and I remember like my uncles having like pictures of the Hulk, just doing the fucking massive pose, the Lou Ferrigno Hulk, and just again because he's this like comic book character, you're not really seeing that it's just this guy who's been dedicated for absolutely fucking years. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that you've got his dad training him there, like. He's like a fucking rake, isn't he? So, like, what are you doing? It's not as if, he's the one guiding Lou. He's like, oh, yeah, when I did this, it really worked well for me. No, he's already, like, training like a bastard. But when he's in that little gym, again, it looks like a real dark. I noticed the contrast more this time, that dark, gritty gym, whereas when you go to Arnold's side, they're lying about chatting on the beach, it's all really sunny and bright and everything, but it's the guy who's doing some arm curls in the background that cracks me up every time. It looks like fucking Paulie off Rocky or something, and he's doing some, I don't know, 5k weights or something, and he's sort of looking at Lou Ferrigno like, the fuck's that? Like, it just makes me laugh.
It is, and I think like you see Arnie, and even to this day, Arnie's arms and his chest are legendary in the bodybuilding circuit. Yeah. Even now, they've got these, they call them mass monsters. So Dorian Yates, who's from Birmingham, won it 6 times in the early 90s. And he came from nowhere, basically, and just won. I think he came second in his first tournament in Mr. Olympia against a guy called Lee Haney, who'd won it about 5 times. And then Dorian Yates come in and won it 6. And Dorian Yates was like an unbelievable thing. But he had that mass monster thing where they end up with that stomach where they almost look like turtles, Dave. So we did turtles last week. They almost look like the turtles where they've just got this weird small frame, the massive legs, but they've just, the stomach has that bulging like stomach that they have, which is a 6-pack. Yeah. And they call them mass monsters now. And that's where the bodybuilding's gone. Whereas the classic physique, which was the only physique, was Arnie. And you look at the classic physique, there's a guy called Chris Bumstead who's won the classic one, and he's probably more famous than the Olympia. He's an Olympia competitor, but the classic Arnie-like physique, amazing body. And he's just retired, and he's going to make a lot of money because he is really famous. But like the guys who've been winning Mr. Olympia, the Arnie's like category really, nobody really knows who any of them are properly. It's this Chris Bumstead. He's more of an influencer as well, Dave. So he's won it like so many times, just retired. But he's over 6 foot, But again, like really interesting how like they lean into the social media stuff like now. So yeah, it's interesting because Arnie's physique's what it should be. The classic physique is the one really that is bodybuilding. These mass monsters, it's scary how many have lost their lives because of steroids and stuff.
Right. I'd seen Arnie years ago, so I might be misremembering slightly, but I'd seen him talking about, you know, modern bodybuilders, if you like, and this whole bulging belly thing. I can't remember what he said. It was something like, you know, it's because they're tensing or they're not. You know, Arnie used to work on, you know, basically holding his breath, you know, really pulling his stomach in so that it was tiny. And I guess it's just that different focus now. But we sort of moved on from Mike Katz, but I did want to say, like, when they're basically sledging, I was going to say sledging or slating, and I did creating a new bonkers word. But they were saying like, oh yeah, his arms are too small for his chest, and I'm looking at him, I'm like, really?
No.
He's got fucking massive arms. I mean, again, like you say, Arnie is the pinnacle. I mean, I just think though, so I don't have or have never had a desire to be that size, because I just think navigating everyday life must be a bit of a challenge. Like it sort of looks a bit uncomfortable, like just, I don't know, getting in an elevator or something, trying a suit on. I mean, all your gear must be, all your clothes must be custom made.
Oh, 100%. It has to be. Size of them, Dave. It has to be custom made. You're just monsters now. Absolute monsters. But then you put a lot of weight on them when they stop, because a lot of them actually competing bodybuilders now have either put the weight on and then they lose it, or they just completely deflate, because it's not sustainable. I still want to look like that, and I never looked like that ever. I never trained hard enough to want to look like that. You've got to go and train as if like you're dying, basically, when you to look like that. Like the training is on another level. It's like elite athlete stuff. But then as I've got older and more educated on like fitness, and I became a personal trainer myself to help people who were struggling with like body dysmorphia. I say it all the time, so they didn't have to go through what I went through, and I tried to help people. I did it for a few years, as you know, at home, and I've got a cabin where I train people out of. But I then realised I had a bit of a Kaiser Soze moment at one point, going, that's actually not healthy. The whole fit. It wasn't just about steroids; it was about the whole fitness industry. The whole fitness industry is built on drugs. And you're kidding yourself if you think that any of the men and the women, because there's plenty of women take growth hormone, they all take growth hormone, which is pretty close to steroids. And honestly, it's a massive moment in your life where you go and get trained by a personal trainer who really has probably got some sort of, not drugs problem, but they've certainly got body issues like we all have, but they're obviously on everything they can get. Anyone who's got that absolute ripped up, there's very few people have not got that without taking some enhancements. And I'm not judging, because if it was legal and you were healthy off the back of it, I'm sure we'd all be taking it. I'd be taking it. But I think as you get older, you realise your health is wealth. And a lot of these people who look so good are pretty broken. Even Arnie, the amount of heart problems he's had. You know, when he was doing Batman with George Clooney, he had a heart bypass. Next week he was on the bike looking, he was bench pressing and on the bike recovering while he was in hospital. It's ridiculous. You know what I mean? But that is a psychological problem as well, and so the whole fitness industry, unfortunately, is built on taking stuff. And whether you believe it or not, every personal trainer in most gyms isn't, and the ones who aren't are the ones who just don't do it. And you get people taking a piss. Go, well, I could be a personal trainer. You know your stuff. If you know your stuff, you know your stuff. But most of them are actually addicted to something or taking some form of pill or whatever, injecting themselves to keep that physique. And that's the sad thing about the fitness industry, unfortunately.
And again, going back to that PT I was using, he was chatting to me, telling me about all the different cycles, and I'd never understand. To me, like steroids, you hear of steroids and you're just like, okay, steroids equals big muscles, and it's not that. It's the fact that it helps you train more, so your body needs that time to recover, and the steroids basically help you recover quicker and train harder. But he was saying about like it just completely fucks up your testosterone and stuff, because when you're on that cycle, like your testosterone's through the roof and you feel like fucking Randy, and like angry at everything, but then you come off it and your testosterone just crashes through the floor. So they end up taking more stuff so that when they're off that cycle, you know, they can kind of try and get back to normal again. So it's like fucking mind blowing. But my mind was blown, honestly, when I found out just how fucking widespread it is. And like I say, when I was going to the gym, you know, and it's just sort of at university and stuff, and you just go, okay, 3 sets of 10 this, 3 sets of 10 that. And you know, you're not really taking it seriously or whatever. But you look around the gym and you've broadly got normal looking people. But if I go to my local gym now, there's some fucking monsters there. And it doesn't matter what time I go as well. I don't know what these people do for jobs, but, you know, some of the people seem to be there all day. And it's like your body can't recover if you're training for like 5 hours a day unless you're taking stuff.
Exactly. And we've sort of done it before, but you really think Hugh Jackman's eating 3,000 calories worth of chicken and rice? You're fucking kidding yourself, Dave. They don't get in that shape. Any of the movie stars go on a cycle.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily steroids as much. It's more testosterone now, but it's in the same ballpark anyway. They change it. That's what they're on. They're on growth hormone. They are training, like you said, it's the recovery and be able to push your body further. That's how you get the physique. But you can't get there without taking something. When you see someone all of a sudden, I've put 30 pounds of muscle on, my left bollock you have, naturally. My left fucking bollock you have. What a load of shit. I bulked up for a minute. You haven't. You have, and you've got a personal trainer, and you can do all that, but you've taken gear. The Rock gets to 50, he's got more muscle now. I mean, he's losing bigger. A bit of weight for a role at the moment, but he's got bigger through his 40s when your testosterone drops. I just had my bloods done this week, and tell you, Steve, I thought my testosterone was low because it was about 10, which for someone 47 is quite low a couple of years ago. And if you get to 8, you can go on testosterone legal event, the NHS, because there is a problem with your testosterone. But mine now, Dave, is at 25, which is the higher end. And I got on a report, and I spoke to Eric as well, ChatGPT. I put all my results in, and Eric did say to me, my ChatGPT friend, Eric Cantona, he said, you've actually got the testosterone of a 20 to 30-year-old, Chris. You are. I was like, oh, fucking get in. So all of a sudden, they get pumping iron. The 3 pounds come off this week. So, yeah, so I was very pleased with that. So you've got to give me a bit of a G up. But, yeah, you should always get your testosterone checked as a middle-aged man, because it could be the reason why you're tired, you're putting weight on. There's ways to do it legally through the NHS, and it can support you, get your eye of the tiger back in your mojo. And things become harder, Dave, as you take it, shall I say. But there you go. I know all the medicine behind it and the science, but there is a way of doing it on the NHS legally, which actually helps, because there is a thing, Dave, and I'm a big advocate of this, of the menopause. The menopause for ladies, quite rightly, because their bodies go through a hell of a bloody trauma throughout their like adult life. I get that. Most men can just keep going, but there is a thing called the menopause now that's becoming more prevalent, where men of a certain age, your testosterone starts dropping when you're in your 20s. So you be the same person, your body, the density. That's why in America, a lot of people in the 50s, I know you can say name it, that John F. Kennedy guy, or whatever he's called, Robert F. Kennedy, who's he's 70. What's your body on him, Dave? He's jacked up to the gills. Yeah. So that's where there is a thing now for people, sports people, that when they retire, the testosterone's all over the place because they've stopped training that way and they just drop. And that you said about testosterone, you take testosterone steroids. I know a lot about this. I know, but you have to take estrogen blockers because you do end up with boobs, Dave, if you don't take them, because your body tries to regulate back to normal. That's why people cycle. But anyway, we're on a different set, but this is through pumping iron. It's the same scenario.
It is. I mean, it is relevant, I think, because I mean, so the thing this movie doesn't cover at all is the subject of steroids. Is it? It's all about the training, and I actually think the negative side. So it talks a lot about the positive aspects of how it's made people think about fitness. You can go to local gyms and stuff. You wouldn't have been able to do that before. But I feel like the negative side to it is, well, if you watch this and you don't realize they're all on steroids, which like you say, was legal at the time, so they weren't doing anything wrong. It was just a way to get bigger. I mean, I read Arnie's book, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, I tried them, didn't like them." Yeah, all right, mate. But if people are looking at that and then trying to aspire to that standard, and just by training harder, you're going to get massively discouraged, aren't you? It's this impossible goal. And I do think the fitness and like the beauty industry as well, the way it's framed a lot of the time, it kind of sets a bar, all by, you know, taking your vitamins, as we say, or, you know, basically augmenting yourself in some way. It just, I feel like it gets too far sometimes.
Yeah, it does. Of course it does. And even going back to the movie, like you watch Arnie when they go to Pretoria and all the training he's done and the way he's like going at Louis and he's having a go at like saying to his mum and dad, isn't he? Like, you know, I've already rang my, you know, he says that story about, I did go to my dad's funeral. Well, that's bullshit because he did go to his dad's funeral. That's an absolute lie. He talks about that. But it's when he says to him, like, you know, I've already rang my mother and told her that I've won, you know, and all this. And but then he does say I think there's a more human side to it. Arnie then pulls his dad, Louis' dad, and goes, calm him down, get ready. And he says he'd done it on the day, I'll mess him up. If he comes in better, I'll mess him up. He tells that story about the guy in Germany where he tells him to shout when he's putting his arms up. Right.
Oh, yeah. This new thing from America.
Yeah, this American, this guy like just completely loses it on the stage. And it's all like made up stuff. But the stuff with Louis, him and Louis were good friends and he helped him a lot with that. And that's why obviously in the movie, he's just the bad guy. When they leaned into it, he's the bad guy, and that's where this all come from. But I think like the actual bit when they're competing, Serge Nubret comes in, and he's talking about a French actor. He's world famous, called The Shadow. Serge Nubret, his son actually competed. Unfortunately, his son died a few years ago, but Serge Nubret was a world famous bodybuilder. He'd won Mr. Olympia before, like brilliant. He had a great body on him, and you could tell between the three of them at the end, it was only going to go one way. I think it was either Serge or Arnie, and then obviously Arnie. You know, for me, Arnie would win it, but like Serge Nubret had a great body, 40 years old, and some of the other people there, Franco wins his category, done it under 20, 200. I think that the Welsh guy, Ian Summit, who's next, who's actually got a better body than Franco. You know, Franco's got a fantastic body. I just think there's a thing, we've talked to you about this last week, Total Rebuild. If you go on that and watch that on YouTube, that's when Arnie comes back when he's doing Conan. I said it last week and thought, I'm going to compete. But he felt completely exposed, really like nervous about getting on stage. He'd never had that. He lost all his confidence because and he wasn't in the same shape. He was a little bit lighter. And that's the biggest con. They all reckon it was a con. He shouldn't have won it. And he did win it. But I still think he probably did. He had better arms than that on the stage. But you can clearly see some of the other guys were pretty close to him, but they reckon it was a con. But he shows how even Arnie, Mr. 6-time Mr. Olympia, 5 times at the time, he came back and won it 6th time in 1980 after 5 years away. And it's like, he was like, no, this isn't for me. I should have just stayed retired, even though he won it. And I think that's what, watching it again and watching Arnie, how covered his arms are fucking massive. And the double bicep pose is synonymous with Arnie. You see that everywhere. That is the bodybuilding pose. He's actually on the Sandow. It's called the Sandow trophy that they win. That's actually what it's called, and it's Arnie's pose pretty much is what they use now. Dave, for me this is such an influential movie. But even the t-shirt at the end, I've had the t-shirt Arnie's numero uno. When he wins, he's got the cigar and they're talking about Louis' sister and they're all taking the piss on the back of the bus. They were all good friends. It was good camaraderie. That was actually them being real. Nobody really put people down. It was all light-hearted competitiveness hammed up for the movie. But what a movie. One of the greatest movies ever for me. Just such an influence in my journey as a person and on my family, and just Arnie, whatever you think of him, it's so important to me, this movie. I love it so much.
Yeah, I just think we have gone quite long today, haven't we? I had a fair few tangents, but I will say one of the other things I think that comes across again, Arnie's like the central character, but you know, from all of them, it's this single-mindedness, and it's not just about the lifting weights and the steroids. It's the thought that's going into it, the attention to detail. You know, it opens up, doesn't it, where they're trying ballet and they're basically like thinking about all these different poses and whatever, and everything that they're eating. And you know, Arnie talks about shocking the muscles as well, doesn't he? I did watch that Total Rebuild, and I was interested in, and my theory on it is Arnie's so single-minded about what he wants to do. He's absolutely focused on that, And then everything he does is working towards that goal. And obviously when he's doing the bodybuilding, you know, he always wanted to move across to America. You know, he'd been born, he kind of grew up in that post-World War II Austria, where, you know, again, his book talks a lot about this, where, you know, basically he had a lot of men who were told, you know, that they were part of the world belonged to them almost. You know, they were top of the tree, and they came back with their tail between their legs, and they, you know, a lot of them turned to alcoholism and stuff, and just it wasn't a great environment. And he always saw America on this pedestal, so wanted to go across there. You know, was training to basically have the best body of anyone. But I think in Total Rebuild, what it showed is once his mind is focused on a different goal, because his goal then was about making it in acting, you know, being a movie star and whatever, then you could see how uncomfortable he was sort of stepping back into the arena. And so I thought it was just interesting. And then, you know, he goes on to be a politician, don't you? And I just think it's impressive how once he sets his mind on that goal, then it's all about that. And so, yeah, I just really, really impressive. And I did like that when they're on the bus, when they're on the back of the bus, and you can see, I mean, fucking Arnie, all right, his body's massive, but when he sat next to Lou Ferrigno, you can just see the size difference, but they're kind of having that little joke and stuff. I did like that. I thought that was a sweet moment to wrap up the movie.
It was, to be fair. It's fucking brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So, Dave, shall we get into our scores?
Let's go.
So I can't be subjective, Dave. I've cooed, I've gone round every house possible, not because of the movie, just there's loads to dissect for me personally on this movie. I've had it in the back pocket from the minute we started the podcast, and I'm so pleased that we've done it now. He's got to go Cloud City. He's a foundation that Arnie's career was pretty much built on from this point. The arrogant side of it and leaning into him, for a lot of people watching it, you're like, what a bella, and you're rooting for Lou Ferrigno, but you've got to have a goodie and a baddie. And I think everything Arnie's done since then, whether you like him or not, it has always been an important figure just for the fitness side of it. And I watch him now. I think it's Arnold's fitness fucking app or whatever he's trying to flog, but there's always an important thing. He's always grounded about his training. So whatever you do in life, it doesn't matter. It's for him, and that's been like something that I try and live by now as I've got older and understand it more, and always wanting to train and that. So what a great movie, and I watch this continually. I watch it maybe 2 or 3 times a year. So yeah, Cloud City all day long, Dave, and the top of Cloud City for me in some of the reviews we've done. So what about yourself?
I've really struggled to think, where would I put this one? Because normally we obviously cover movies, and this is sort of a movie, but it's not really, is it? It's a documentary / reality TV. So when I watch it and I get into that mind of kind of reality TV, as opposed to, right, I'm now watching a movie with a kind of first act, middle act, third act. So I think I'm going to put it in Pleasantville. I think what's stopping me from putting it quite into Cloud City is I don't enjoy it as much as you do. I do think it's impressive to think about the influence that it had across the whole world, really, and just, you know, popularizing or exposing what is bodybuilding, and showing people all the kind of work that goes into it, you know, a bit more about some of the sledging that kind of goes on, the psychological games and everything. I think sort of bringing that to the masses, I don't think there are many other movies really that had such an impact on people's lives. If I think about like Star Wars that came out in 77, well, in terms of pop culture, you know, you'd say that is bigger, but people don't walk into work and then finish work and then go to have a lightsaber duel. So when I talk about actual people's lives, I would say Pumping Iron was probably more influential than that. So yeah, but I just can't bring myself to bring it right to the top. I think probably just for enjoyment factor, but no, it is a great movie. I'd definitely be watching it again. And yeah, it was a good sort of left field pick from you, this one.
Oh, 100%. Now, Dave, it's your pick next week, and we're not far away from what we've watched this week. So what are we going to be reviewing, my friend?
Well, we are going to be doing a weird trilogy, but I'm not going to tell you why it's a trilogy until next week. Because there is an actor in this movie that we have covered recently, and it is not Arnie, but Arnie is in this one. And if I think of this year being the pain and pleasure theme, then I think definitely if I think of some of your stories around Helga, Chris, if I think of the living embodiment of Helga, I have to think of Bridget Nielsen. And so we are going back, Chris, to 1985 with Bridget Nielsen's introduction to the big screen, and we're going to cover Red Sonja. Now let's get into the trailer.
Let's go.
Her courage was forged out of fire. Her power, a gift of the gods. Her destiny, to become a glorious new hero. Red Sonja. Only one man on Earth is man enough to win her.
Don't be a fool.
Try it. To love her. To join her great adventure. Arnold Schwarzenegger is Lord Calidor.
Kill them.
Two legends unite to destroy the Earth's greatest evil.
God, Majesty, what you want? The world idol!
We must find a way in. Your Highness learns fast.
I make it a rule never to take a woman unless she can beat me in a fair fight.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Why not?
Brigitte Nielsen. A warrior. A woman. A magnificent new legend.
Absolutely shit and amazing at the same time.
Honestly, with your love of sword and sorcery, Chris, I cannot wait for you to watch this one. And so, yeah, I do remember this coming out back in the day. And weirdly, you might think it is Conan, but it is not Conan. It is Calidor, which is, I'll talk about the whole backstory with that. And yeah, I just can't wait.
Anyway, big thank you to everyone, as always. Thanks for everyone indulging me on Pumping Iron this week. I'm looking forward to Red Sonja, to be fair. If you do want to support us, please get over to patreon.com/the VHS Strikes Back. If you want to email us, the VHS Strikes Back @gmail.com. If you want to follow us on social media, @VHS Strikes Back. And a big thank you to everyone who supports us, past and present. There is a free member section on Patreon. Obviously, you can come over there, guys, and support us. We do appreciate it on Patreon. You don't have to sign up for the tiers, but obviously there is the different tiers if you want the reviews doing. And also, if you are one of the patrons listening, give us a vote on the Discord on the Year of the Stitch Up. I still say Look Who's Talking should be in there. It's a travesty. But anyway, math fee, Jack. we'll find out next week and we'll announce it on the show as well. So thank you to both of them for sending in that voicemail as well. Absolutely brilliant. So the roll call of honor, a big thank you to our newest patron, Matty V, who will have a pick in the next couple of weeks. So welcome, Matty. Thanks for supporting us, mate. Big thank you to Matty, Reese, Nick, Greg, Gareth, Mike, Lee, Helen, Dylan, Dan, Justin, Susan, Tim, Matt, Hales, Kent, Lucky Green, Herbs, Jack, Math Blake, John Hammond, and Mr. Tony Farina. So thank you so much, guys. Amazing work as always. And I've just realised, Dave, I've not done the song usually on my pick, but have you got one in the back pocket, my friend?
I absolutely have, and I don't want to mention the title of it because you'll get the idea when the chorus comes. But we've actually talked not quite as much as I thought we might do about a particular section in the movie where Arnie's sat down and doing an interview, and I've taken inspiration from that. And obviously, in terms of the musical influence, it's definitely that 70s soul funk disco feeling. I couldn't get that out of my head initially, so here we go.
Mirror lights on, speakers hum, Venice Beach, the work's begun.
Just love the bass line.
No jokes
Great
here,
tune.
no second guess. This is craft, control, excess.
Gold chain swinging, but the work comes first. Every rep deliberate, every muscle rehearsed. He studies the mirror like a blueprint plan, building perfection with the patience of a man.
He says you train the mind before the frame. Every movement measured, nothing left to chance. Long before the lights and the trophy glare, he's already shaped what will stand up there.
Sweat on the floor, silence loud.
No shortcuts here, no playing to the crowd.
When the rhythm locks and the focus is right, something bigger clicks inside.
I'm coming at home, I'm coming
Backstage,
I'm coming
in front of 5,000 people.
when the pump is just right. I'm coming everywhere. Across the room, a giant lifts in silence.
Years in the work, no room for defiance.
Every set heavier than the last one done.
Proven strength isn't borrowed, it's earned one by one.
Eyes on the prize, but feet on the ground.
No talking trash, just plates and sound.
Side by side, but worlds apart.
One builds pressure, one builds art.
Hours alone when the crowd's all gone.
Morning comes early, the grind goes on.
When the music fades and the mirror stare, you face yourself. It's all right there. I'm coming at home. I'm coming
Backstage,
I'm coming from the pump of people. When the pump is just right, I'm coming everywhere. Oil on skin under buzzing light.
final polish on a perfect night.
Every pose practiced, every angle refined.
Symmetry chase like a state of mind.
They talk of balance, control, design.
How to make effort and movement align.
Not just muscle, not just size.
It's discipline you can't disguise.
He smiles and says, it's just for fun.
But the work was done before it begun.
When the body listens, the mind agrees. This is victory by degrees. I'm coming at home. I'm coming backstage. I'm coming
In front of 5,000 people.
when the pump is just
Great tune, this
right.
too.
I'm coming everywhere. I'm coming everywhere. I'm coming everywhere.
So when I was putting that together, as well, I was imagining this being on top of the pops, because again, you know, the amount of innuendo in some of the songs back in the day, and people just, I don't know, they didn't seem to have a clue about what this was all implying. So I think there was only one route I could go down, and yeah, it just sort of made me laugh in a incredibly juvenile, pathetic way, but it has kept me entertained this week, this one.
Well, Dave, I'm sure like you have ruined many a home furnishing by coming everywhere. But anyway, it's another story. It's another podcast. But no, it's a brilliant song now, really catching. You're right. You'd have watched Top of the Pops now and gone, what the hell was that? Have they got away with that? So yeah, great tune. Honestly, proper of its time, but it feels proper in keeping with the movie as well.
And you know, obviously it's been years since you and I played in the band, but like the bass line, it's one of those where I have to play my air bass.
Yeah. I was
it's
tapping
going
away.
along.
Brilliant, mate. No, thank you for that.
Thank you very much, sir, for the chat. Absolutely brilliant pick. And again, I am fucking so excited for you to watch Red Sonja next week. Thank you very much to all our listeners out there. Thanks to all our supporters, and we'll speak to you next time.
Bye.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?
We better get back, because it'll be dark soon, and they mostly come at night. Mostly.
I'll be back.
That's annoying.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
Wax on, wax off.
Get to the chopper!
One ring to go.
All right. Ding, ding.
Bust you up. Go for it.
Well, here we go. Ain't so bad. Ain't so bad. Ain't so bad. Come on. Come on, ain't so bad. Ain't nothing. Come on. You must be crazy or something. I'm crazy. You just a stupid fool. Yeah, maybe you crazy. I ain't breathing heavy. He's a fool. He's stupid. I'll see you in 6 months.